Hi, advocates. My name is Julienne Edwards. I'm a grassroots advocacy manager at Fight CRC. I'm here today with Trish Lannon, one of our Grassroots Action Committee members. And we are so excited that you're going to be joining us at 2018 Call on Congress in less than a week. We are here to give you kind of an overview of what to expect from your first Call on Congress and really introduce you to everything we do here at Fight CRC. And I will tell you, this will be my first Call on Congress as well. So I'll be leaning on our GAC to guide me through this experience. You're in good company. So first of all, this is our GAC. It's not our whole GAC, but you'll be meeting all of them as soon as you get to Call on Congress. Our GAC are really your first in line for support and mentorship and guiding you through the advocacy activities here at Fight CRC. So what do we do here at Fight CRC with advocacy? Well, number one, we fight for the issues that face the colorectal cancer community, and we do that in a number of ways. But the biggest way that we do it is by empowering you and your stories to make that impact. Because these policies, they can get pretty complicated, but at the end of the day, they have real impacts on patients, and Congress needs to know that. So, how have we demonstrated that advocacy success in the past? Well, we've added colorectal cancer to the list of cancers that receives money through the peer-reviewed medical research program under the DoD. That is our big hang our hat on victory, and because that program really pioneers a lot of groundbreaking, kind of high-risk, high-reward research. And we fight for that addition every year. We have to protect it, and every year we get it. So that's all thanks to all of your voices and all of the work that you do. And also, consistently adding co-sponsors to the Removing Barriers to Colorectal Cancer Screening Act. That's something that you'll hear a lot about this year at Call on Congress. It's one of our main goals to get that over the finish line. And so those are kind of a couple of our big successes that we can point to. But they range from the big successes to the little ones, like protecting access to treatment through NEACA reform, which has been a big topic this year. So we count the big successes and the little ones. So what do we give you at Fight CRC? We give you tools, like advocacy tools, like action alerts. We give you guidance through the GAC's mentorship and also through staff support whenever you need it. You can always reach out to us. We give you education. As I said, healthcare policy is pretty complicated, and sometimes, if you've only got 5 or 10 minutes a day to spare towards advocacy efforts, you don't want to go through the nitty-gritty. And that's why we're here to write blogs and share things on social so that you can get the real meat and potatoes of how this impacts you and your community. And then finally, empowerment and training. And that's what Call on Congress is all about. So at Call on Congress, you'll receive in-depth policy training on all the issues that we champion. And don't worry, there won't be a test. It'll just sort of give you the background to go into those meetings feeling prepared. And the most important thing that we give you is the empowerment to tell your story, because your story is what makes the impact matter. So with that said, there's no better person to introduce the GAC than a member of the GAC. Trish has been a member of our Grassroots Action Committee for a number of years, and she is a survivor herself. So Trish, I'll let you take it away.
All right. So with our introduction to Grassroots Action Committee, we have 13 people right now. Many of them are not new. Many of them have been doing this for several years, and you'll hopefully have already heard from them. Hopefully you've already gotten at least 2 emails. There'll be a third email, and they'll be working with you very closely What's also nice is that you'll actually get to sit with your Grassroots Action Committee member, because we will be sitting by states during some of our training, and that really helps you guys get to really, really know each other, so that when you do get to the point where you're on Capitol Hill, you guys have had enough time to bond and get to know each other, which is really, really helpful. Unfortunately, I'm the only one on this video, so you'll get to know all of them when we get there. They'll be introducing all of them. And like I said, there are 13, and to my knowledge, all of them are coming. So that's great. So it'll be exciting, and hopefully it won't be the first time you've spoken to them.
And these are our GAC co-chairs. This is Maria Williams and...
Yeah, so we have...
Oh, so sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So two of the hardest working people on GAC are Maria Williams and Pam. Pam is a survivor. She's a stage 4 survivor and still fighting. And Maria was actually got involved through her friend Belle, and got her children involved as well. So she actually started our junior advocacy program, which is pretty amazing. So these two ladies are, honestly, I don't know when they sleep. They work very, very hard for you and for us, and they will be our fearless leaders.
And if you have any questions going through Call on Congress, they're going to be boots on the ground. They can help you with pretty much anything. They've seen it all. As a matter of fact, I believe Pam has been at Call on Congress since the very first Call on Congress. So she's seen it.
So I forgot who this was.
This is contacting this one. So really what we want to sort of drive home is the impact of what you're doing here and why it's so important. So we'll give you a little bit of an overview of sort of what to expect. And since this is my first Call on Congress, well, I'll rely on Trish to give you that, and then sort of explain the overall impact of Hill meetings and of advocacy and why it really matters that we keep doing this. So Trish, if you'll give us kind of an overview.
Yeah, so Call on Congress is one of those things that you don't have to, I hear a lot of times from people, they're like, I'm not political, I'm not political. This isn't about Democrat or Republican, this is about health. And that's why people keep coming back. They keep coming back to Call on Congress because what they're doing is they're fighting for themselves, they're fighting for other people, and they're just trying to get the people who are on Capitol Hill to listen so that we can get people screened, get people healthy, and get these loops taken out of the different policies that are out there. So people keep coming back all the time because not every year sometimes we get everybody to sign on, and sometimes we have some tougher ones. And so I personally keep coming back because I want to make sure I get every single one of my congressmen and senators signed on. And, that year that I finally got that one that would not sign and didn't sign and didn't sign, and when we finally got the right person to talk to and found out 3 weeks later that they signed on, it's like the best feeling ever. So you come back all the time because you just want to show them how much this means to you. Your stories are so important. It's the time when these legislative aides, if you really, really have an effect on them and really reach their heart, they will repeat your story to their congressman or senator, and you will get them to sign whatever policies we're asking for them to look at. So, definitely that is why you'll see people like Pam who come back every year because, it's not something that suddenly we get done and then it ends. But, it's just a great time. You're going to meet other survivors, other caregivers. It's a time to sort of relish in the fact that we're all fighting the same thing and we all have something in common, which maybe at home we don't necessarily have those connections with people at home. And so these next 4 days really get you in that spirit. And that's pretty much why most people come back, is they want to make sure that people are listening, and they also know that they have built a family here at Fight CRC going through all this.
Yeah, and really touching on those relationships, I mean, it's a great time for the community to come together and spend, it's 3 days really getting to know each other, being in the same room and talking about your stories. It's very, very vulnerable place to be, but it's also very strengthening. And also, speaking about relationships, when you come back, you're not only building relationships with your CRC community, but also with the offices that you've visited with and that you've sent action alerts to and phone calls. And every time you do that, that relationship gets stronger. And, I've met with staffers who have said, I built this relationship with this person and they weren't there this year and it broke my heart. And that relationship helps us move the needle. That investment in people helps to move the needle for people. And to that end, that's how we measure success. Whenever we can move the needle, be it, one tick or, getting that person who wouldn't sign or getting that bill across the finish line. I mean, each success is a success. So you'll see folks coming back year after year. And if you're wondering what impact you can make, I mean, you never know whether you are the tipping point. You never know if you're the first step towards a legislator sort of making the decision to support a policy. But whatever you are, you're moving the needle in the right direction. And if your congressman or senator already agrees with you, well, then you're arming them with stories to defend their point. I've seen a lot of people's stories be brought up on House floors and Senate floors. It happens all the time. So there's always a point, no matter if the person agrees with you or not. So we're going to dive on a little bit, dive into the nitty gritty. I'm really lucky because Trish is an educator, and so she'll be able to walk you through these things, sort of the backbone of all the Capitol Hill business.
Yeah, and one thing you want to keep in mind is, when I've done this before with people in years past, is that you just keep it simple. Like, you're not needing to have an understanding of how the government works on the level of being a poli-sci major. Honestly, when I was a teacher, I'm an assistant principal now, but when I was a teacher, I taught 5th grade, and the 5th grade knowledge that they had was plenty. That's what you need to know. The big thing is, much like any kind of organization, Capitol Hill has a lot of acronyms. So a lot of these will come up during the discussions, during some of our speakers. It might come up during our policy training when we're talking about our talking points for Capitol Hill. Some of them you probably know, some of them you probably don't know. So just make sure you take a look at these and make sure that you are fully aware of what they mean. If you have any questions, ask us. And the big thing is that, I know everybody knows of the CDC and NIH and maybe even NCI, but, the cancer control program is something that will come up sometimes in the different policies that we're talking about. Department of Defense is a fancy term for NSA and Department of Defense team to go back and forth. Depends on who you talk to. But then we also have our peer-reviewed cancer research program. It's going to be really important that we at least have an understanding of what they stand for. It'll make more sense when we look at our policies when we're talking about some of these things.
Great. And now we're going to kind of just go back to Schoolhouse Rock here.
Yeah, so then this is what I was talking about, is that you don't need to have a poli-sci major. You don't even need to be a high school student knowledge. I mean, it's really basic. Go back to 5th grade. And we all love, Saturday morning cartoons. Well, at least those of you who remember Saturday morning cartoons. But we had the Schoolhouse Rock. And a couple of years ago, I brought it to Calling Congress because I just thought, why not watch, I'm just a bill here on Capitol Hill. And it really actually takes it down to a very simple understanding of these bills that we're trying to get through and how long it can take and why do we need to come back every year? Because I get people ask me all the time, like, I don't understand. Why are we coming back and doing the same thing again? Well, we are, because if you watch that video and you watch poor little Bill try to become a law, he's exhausted by the end of it, because it really does take a very long time. And lots of things can happen in the middle. So there's going to be a link for you so that you can watch the Schoolhouse Rock video. I highly recommend it. It really, honestly, it's really about all you need to know. And I need to put my glasses on for this next part. But the whole idea of the Senate versus the House of Representatives, there is a difference. Again, if you just go back to your 5th grade training, and understanding of, that the Senate is, you get only 2 per state, whereas the House of Representatives is based on population, and that was because the founding fathers couldn't have not come to an agreement, so this was their compromise. And then you can take a look at their terms. Again, if you look at the House of Representatives, they only have a term of 2 years, so they could technically be voted out of office at some point during this whole process, which makes us have to go back to the beginning, which goes back to why we want you all to come back every year, because you're building relationships, whereas the Senate is there much longer, but, people do retire and things like that. But, in particular, the House of Representatives, you're going to see a lot of turnover. You can see the differences in the voting and how they debate and their ages. The big thing is that in order for this to work, we need you guys to come back. Just take it in. Don't get overwhelmed by everything. My first year, I took so many copious notes and completely got a little anxiety ridden, because I was trying to think, like, I don't know how all this works. Really, when you get in there, this is important to know about why we're doing what we're doing, why we need you to come back. But the biggest thing is that it's going to be your story. It's going to be your personality. It's going to be really important that you connect with the person you're talking to, because even if it's only just a legislative aid, and I shouldn't even use the term only, I'm telling you, those people are key, because this one gentleman from Maryland who I went to for 3 years in a row and he didn't sign it, the next year he had a different legislative aid, and I just, between myself and the other gentleman that was with me, we felt like we had nailed it. Like, we got her. We could tell on her face that we got her. And within a short amount of time, we got an email from their office saying that they got him to sign it. So it really does make a difference, your story. So don't get too wrapped up in all this, but this is really important to understand why, if you're questioning, that you did, we were talking about the same things last year, or why would I come back? It's important to keep coming back. That's the only way we're going to get these things passed and headed in the right direction.
Fabulous. And so, yeah, as Trish said, you should not be discouraged if you get a health LA. A lot of times those folks are really the people that know more about the health policies than the member who has 1,000 different policy areas bouncing around in their brain. So if you want somebody to really be able to speak to their boss and really be able to say, this is really important that we change this, those are sometimes the minds that you have to change first. And if you can make a connection, and we'll get into sort of how to tell your story to make those connections and make the connections between your story and the legislative ask. We'll get into that on Call on Congress, but that's where we want you to head. So about Capitol Hill. So this is a lot more nitty gritty. These are the committees that we focus on. And Trish, again, you can play the educator.
Well, I mean, it's just like, I mean, if you think about any kind of group that you might join. So if I'm thinking about Fight CRC can't, they have a staff and they do an awful lot of things, but there's all these other little things that have to get taken care of. So you have to create committees so that you can delegate responsibilities in order to meet the needs of everything. And so the major committees that we focus on are here. And you can obviously, some of them to me are very obvious as to why, some might not be so obvious, but when you actually are speaking to somebody, whether it's on the Senate or the House of Representatives side, I always find it very helpful to know if they're on any of these committees, so that when I'm speaking to the legislative aid, I can relate to, if they're on the Senate Finance Committee and I know that something's coming up, I can say, I know he's on or she's on, and I can respond to it. But don't get too hung up on this. But these are the committees that are tied into some of the topics that we're talking about. Some of them, like I said, when I was talking about loopholes before, sometimes people attach things to the weirdest things that don't make sense. And that's why some of these groups become really important, because somebody has attached something somewhere else that has nothing to do with what you might think it is. And that's the only bargaining chip that somebody was able to use to say, well, I'll pass your thing if you add this little thing onto it. But, for me, I just use this as a way of, when I find out who I'm going to be meeting with, I just look to see in the research that they'll give you, I look to see if they're on any of these.
Yeah, and a lot of these, you'll see a lot of commerce, a lot of finance, a lot of appropriations, those really deal with the research folks. Those are, Congress holds the purse strings for the nation. And so these groups are really where we're going to be. Those are the financial move makers. So if folks that you're meeting with are on these committees, they're the ones that you will have to convince to spend money, which can be the hardest thing to convince Congress to do. And then obviously the HELP committee, health, education, labor, and pensions. Healthcare is their focus. Labor, HHS, and defense. Those folks are really dealing with the health issues. And then obviously the Senate Armed Services Committee deals largely with all of the Department of Defense funding, and we look towards them really for our peer-reviewed cancer medical research program. And so again, these are things where you don't have to get into the nitty-gritty. We're going to give you a list of targets, if you're meeting with somebody that's on one of these committees, you can look them up in advance, but you'll probably have an idea. We'll probably have let you know if you're meeting with somebody really key. So, so moving on from that, let's talk logistics. So on the day of Call on Congress, well, actually the day before, you'll get a schedule. Now the schedule is done by a scheduling service that we at Fight CRC contract with, and we give them your address, we give them your info, and then we ask them to schedule all of your meetings. And so they'll give you a schedule that looks like this, and they'll tell you sort of who's on your team. Okay, so we've got a schedule here. It tells you the first, few things that you see: Liz Arms, Kristen Keeson, who's a member of our GAC, Ben Keeson, Jessica Martin, Karen Welling. Those would be your team members. Now, you might not go into every meeting with those same team members. We've made sure that nobody's going in alone. So you might actually end up with somebody from a different state who's just kind of coming with you for moral support. But a lot of times you'll be going in with other people in your state, maybe from different districts. And you'll see at the bottom here what your actual schedule is. So when you can expect those meetings to be. Don't be alarmed if you see sort of a TBD down there. Sometimes they don't get a confirmation until right up until the last minute. That happens. But fortunately, Soapbox, the company that makes our schedules, actually has an app, and you'll be able to download that app and see your most updated schedule, even in the morning of Call on Congress, sort of going into it. So you can see who the representative is that you'd be meeting with, that office, and then who the staffer is. This is a legislative assistant named Jeremy Lippert from Colorado. And also you'll see here, this is the room in which you'll be meeting. So these letters stand for Rayburn House Office Building. You'll be able to see all of those different House Office Building names when Soapbox goes through their training with you. So don't worry about that. Before you head out to the Hill, you'll know exactly where you're going. So you'll get your schedule, and Soapbox will walk you through it. And if you have any questions at all, this is, again, why your GAC is here for you. That's why a staff is here for you. And we can make sure you know exactly where you're going. So, pardon me. Now, Capitol Hill can be a little bit confusing if you've never been before, but we will start, everybody is going to start in the same place in the morning of our Hill Day, and that is at the Rayburn House office building. That's where our Hill briefing is. So once you get there, everybody will be able, again, your GAC will be around you, your state teams will be around you, you'll know where you're going, and if you have any questions, there are lots of signs. You can refer to this map, which we will have printed for you in your training materials. You can, if you've got your microscope out, you can see that this is the Rayburn House office building. All of the house buildings are on this side of the street, and all of the Senate buildings are just on the other side of the Capitol on this street. All of these buildings are linked by subterranean tunnels, but it's kind of nice to get out and get your bearings in the fresh air occasionally, because they can be mazes. If you get into any trouble, you will have, the contact information for our staff and also for your GAC. So don't hesitate to reach out if you're feeling a little lost. And after you've come back, pardon me, I'll just move these off to the side. Or I can't. After you come back from the Hill Day, we will be, as I said, we will be busing you to the Hill briefing. Everybody goes in one big group on our Hill Day morning, where the buses leave right at 7. So you'll want to be on the bus at 6:45. And we'll go to our Hill briefing all together. The buses will drop us off right behind the Capitol, so we can take our strong arm selfie on the steps of the Capitol. And then we'll head over to the office building. On your way back, though, since everybody has meetings throughout the day and nobody's schedule is quite the same, you can go back to the hotel kind of at your leisure. So if you're staying at the Key Bridge Marriott, which I believe about 95% of folks are, the closest metro station to the hotel is the Roslyn metro station. It's just a few short minutes walk from where we're staying. So you can take the metro from Capitol Hill to Roslyn Station, or you can just grab a cab or use Uber. That's really the easiest way to do it. If you are staying at a different hotel, please let us know, and we'll try and figure out, we can help you figure out your route back. So that is about it for Call on Congress 2018 in terms of prep. Trish, is there anything that I've missed, or anything you want to recap?
No, I just think that it's important to understand that we're going to be doing a lot of important work, but at the same time, there is a lot of healing that goes on. You're going to make connections with people. So definitely, take advantage of all the sessions that are going to be offered. You've got some choices. Some things are whole groups, some things are breakout sessions. Just take advantage of the entire time there, because it's the one time that you're going to be learning a lot, and you'll be able to reach out to some other people that are there. And it's just incredible what you'll learn while you're there and the connections you'll make. So just enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. It's about the impact. It's about the community. It's about raising our voices together, and that amplifies our message. So we can't wait to meet you, and we're really looking forward to it. Again, if you have any questions between now and then, that's what we are here for. That's what the GAC is here for. So don't be afraid to reach out. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you.